So let's say you line up your exec, your board are behind you, you've consulted with your people. Now, what does that look like for the employee experience? What changes, what doesn't? Where are the bright spots? What are you bridging? Like, what are all those things? And I really loved our conversation, Leslie, around how do you work out which parts of the employee experience to redesign or not? What did you do at Easy Crypto? Because you're a remote first principles organization, aren't you?
Yes, we are. So for those who don't know, Easy Crypto is a crypto exchange. So we buy, sell, swap crypto. And with the business, when it started, our founders started it as a remote first company. And I think what's really important in that is it was remote first flex. So what that meant is that our team could work from anywhere in the world where we operated. And they also had the flexibility to work at any time of the day that suited them. What we wanted to create was a sunrise sunset company, which essentially was 24 hours, always available for our customers and moving with the market that we operate in. So when I started with Easy Crypto, it was already a remote first company. And the remit for me when I joined was to help the business to scale internationally. And first and foremost, that was bringing on new talent globally, but also to open new markets. And so the focus for me was to understand what was working well in Easy Crypto already, what was making our culture so great that we were able to scale, and then what do we need to enhance or what do we need to change as we scale rapidly. And we've employed 45 people in 6 months now, which is rapid scale for a company that was 67 when I joined. And in doing that, we were very intentional about communicating our remote first flexible culture. And that started with employment brand, which is an area that I have a lot of experience in. And I wanted to be able to communicate to potential candidates what it meant to work in remote first flex at Easy Crypto versus another company. And that comes with a lot of autonomy. You need to be the type of person that is self-motivated, that is able to work remotely from wherever in the world, but manage your own workload. A company where expectations are clear and the problems to solve are very clear, but the way you go about doing that is up to you. And also working in a very transparent company where documentation is key. And I know Penny knows a lot about this area, but documentation is key. So working in that type of transparent culture isn't for everyone. And so communicating that first and foremost in our employment brand enabled us to select the right people to move forward, but also for those who didn't feel that that was right for them to self-select themselves out. And I must say that the number of candidates that applied with us because we were remote first made us a very attractive company to work for, not only in New Zealand, but globally as well. And so when we then moved into the recruitment phase, we focus heavily on culture in the first interview. We don't talk all about skill or capability in the first interview at all. We talk about the culture that we have here and the way that we work together. And in doing that, we engage people within the business to be involved in that first interview. So it's not hierarchy-led interview. It's about collaborating and having conversations with people in the business to understand how that works best for them. And then we move through to the onboarding phase as we were rapidly onboarding lots of people, which the business hadn't done before, and gaining feedback from those who were joining us and how we could execute onboarding at a global scale with competing time zones. And we came back to the principles of Flex Remote, which is transparency and documentation. So our full onboarding process is available to anyone in the company to be able to pick that up and to support the onboarding of a new person in the business, and fully documenting the onboarding experience so that no matter where you were in the world, what time zone you were in, you had access to that information at any time. And so using feedback, listening to people as they came into the business and understanding the pain points, and then actually having our new starters co-create our onboarding experience and then our talent experience and our succession experience. They were involved in that co-creation through joining us. And what's interesting about this remote first flexible work is that everyone has access to the same information, and that it's constantly being amended over time. So it's open source. So day and night, that information is changing and being amended by the people in the business who know that information best. And then when you wake up the next day, there's iterations of that information and people are constantly building. So it's a community of people, not just led by HR, that enable this type of culture.
And so even for a company that was already embracing remote first, was there anything that caught you by surprise or that you found particularly challenging?
The issue that we had when I first joined was definitely the transparency of information in a knowledge system. So we had Slack and all of our channels were open and people had access to all information on Slack for every team. However, we didn't have a knowledge library. And that source of truth, that was more long tail content, that wasn't changing. It was the opportunity to leverage a knowledge library system and then influence the business to become a documentation culture. And that was a key piece of work that the internal comms team has undertaken over the last 6 months, is to bring everyone on that journey as we scale rapidly. And then I think we overlay the complexities of a global company where you've got to think about diverse cultures and languages as well in that documentation environment. It's been a huge challenge for us to be able to connect with everyone globally, but also respect their individual needs and the information that they need to access in their local language. And making sure that that is available for everyone, so it's an equal playing field. And I think that really speaks into the industry that we're in, and equality and equal access for all and decentralization, and we need to live that within the culture that we have.
So your background in employment branding and EVP must have been a nice skill set for them to have, because how have you gone communicating that?
It's very one-to-one, which may surprise a lot of people in a remote first culture, because the expectation is that we would document everything and then we would remove personal connections, whereas we really lean into personal connections. And that's where that first interview, talking just about culture with people within the business, leans into personal connections. And then when someone starts, they get matched with 5 random people within the organization, ideally not within the country that they're operating or working in order to build those personal connections further. And there's lots of opportunities for that that are very much curated within our business, like donut calls. I'm sure everyone's heard of them through Slack. But there's also these micro moments that happen naturally on Slack primarily, where you can just huddle someone, use the call feature to immediately call someone and interact with them. So we've got this mix of async and sync comms, and I think that really brings to life this EVP of remote flex first.
So good. You better check your chat. You've probably got some questions in there you need to tend to at some point, but that's awesome. Thank you for those insights.